Good morning.
Morning.
It is 7 a.m. and the quorum is present, and this meeting has been duly called and posted in a time and manner as according to law. It is my honor and privilege to invite the Reverend Dr. Tim Lyles, the pastor at Second Baptist Church, to open the meeting with the prayer and the pledges to the Texas and American flag.
Will you pray with me? God, we thank you for this board. Lord, we pray for wisdom for each one. Lord, we thank you for public school systems. We pray for students, educators, and staff in this district. Lord, for safe places to learn, for opportunities to be positive influences in the lives of children. Lord, we thank you for lifelong lessons experienced in extracurricular activities. We thank you for the privilege to help meet a variety of needs in this community. We thank you for the freedom of thought, belief, expression, and education. In your name we pray. Amen. Will you join me in the pledge to the flags? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lyles. Thank you for being an advocate and a voice for public education with Pastors for Texas school children all over the state. We surely appreciate you and the work that the Reverend Charles Foster do on advocating for our behalf. At this time, we will turn it right over, as we have a lot on this agenda, to Mrs. Erin Gregg, the Executive Director of Communications and Community Relations, inviting her to the podium to the acknowledgement of Board Appreciation Month. Good morning, Mrs. Gregg.
Good morning. Good morning. January marks the annual observance of School Board Recognition Month, a time to recognize this work of school board members and celebrate public education. The theme of this year's celebration, Locally Elected, Community Connected, highlights the connection between school trustees and their communities. School board members are the largest group of locally elected officials in the state and work tirelessly to advocate for public education with local, state, and federal leaders on behalf of all students and staff. In recognition of your dedicated service, I'm honored to introduce a special guest, Lubbock City Councilwoman Christy Martinez Garcia, who is here this morning for a special proclamation.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning, Councilwoman.
I think I joke, but I think it's a serious thing. I'm the only morning council person, okay? So, sorry about that, but you have me, and I'm so glad to see you guys. I'm glad none of you have the flu, so that's very good. This is such a great opportunity for us all to be able to recognize you in your month, and I am very grateful on behalf of the mayor and our city council and the city of Lubbock for everything that you do. And this should also be Superintendent Month, but, you know, thank you for all that you do. And with that, I'd like to read this special recognition. Whereas public schools work tirelessly to ensure all children receive quality education to enrich their lives and are given the opportunity and resources to reach their full potential and grow to become confident, responsible, and ready to live in our ever-changing world. And whereas local school board members remain dedicated in providing children the best education that is tailored to each of their individual needs and lay the strong foundation for our school systems by working together with parents, teaching professionals, and members of the community to keep quality education at the forefront of our community and be advocates for both the students and the school. And whereas school boards are vital to the Texas education system because they show commitment to our children and strive to create an environment in which children can prosper, and they prepare students to engage and better our community through effective leadership and sound decision making. I know it's long, but you deserve it. And whereas it is important to recognize the Lubbock Independent School Board members for their commitment to children and public education, and recognize them for their steadfast efforts to give our children a safe and effective place to learn and prosper. And now, Therefore, we, the mayor, your District 1 council member, Christy Martinez Garcia, and City Council of the great city of Lubbock, hereby declare the month of January to be School Board Recognition Month in Lubbock and encourage all citizens to recognize the passion, the dedication, and hard work of local school board members, and in turn continue to support their efforts by fostering a school district that meets the needs of our children. And it's dated this 25th day of January 2024. Congratulations, folks. You are very well deserving. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.
The trust placed in us by our parents and guardians is what enables us to fulfill our commitment to every child every day in Lubbock ISD. And it's an honor to have several of them in attendance in our meeting this morning. Please welcome Alma Molina from our Lubbock ISD Council of PTAs to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here to express my deepest gratitude to each of you for your dedication to our school community. As a parent actively involved in the PTA for the last 10 years and an employee of the school district, I have had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the positive impact of your leadership. Your commitment to fostering and nurturing an inclusive educational environment has not only benefited my own children, but has also contributed to the overall growth and success of every student. The collaborative spirit and forward-thinking approach you bring to the table has been instrumental in creating a thriving learning community. I'm truly thankful for the tireless efforts you invest in making strategic decisions that enhance the quality and education and support the professional development of our exceptional educators. Your leadership has not gone unnoticed, and I am proud to be a part of a school district that is guided by such a dedicated and visionary board of trustees. Thank you for your selfless service and for making a lasting impact on the lives of our students. Your hard work is sincerely appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm normally much of an off-the-cuff type of speaker, but I wanted to make sure I got it right today. So Aaron was kind enough to allow me to print it out for me. My name is Katie Townley, and I'm the Lubbock ISD Council of PTA's president, a role I'm very honored to serve in. I'm honored to be here to say thank you to you trustees. My kids are and have been thriving in Lubbock ISD. My sister works in and is thriving in Lubbock ISD. My husband worked in and grew professionally in Lubbock ISD and now uses his knowledge and experience to help other school districts and Lubbock ISD. I have served on many committees, boards, informal parent groups, and now serve on the Lubbock ISD Council of PTAs, and am so proud to have been a part of all of these. However, none of this would be possible without you and your predecessors. I had the opportunity to work with, interact with, and learn from people in lots of other districts. I'm extremely proud to say my kids are in, I serve in, and I pay taxes in Lubbock ISD. None of this would be possible without the work you have put in. You make tough decisions. Is that an understatement? Especially when our state government gives out unfunded mandates, withholds funds, and when there is no perfect answer and you know any decision will be unpopular. You work long hours, have communications with citizens and parents, and I feel very safe in assuming you think and worry about our schools even when we, the public, don't even know it. Thank you for putting your heart, effort, brains, influence, and so much more into making Lubbock ISD what it is and what it will be. Your impact cannot be measured. Our kids, schools, parents, district employees, Lubbock community, surrounding communities, and future generations, just to name a few, really feel the impact of your positive influence. As the theme of this year's celebration, Locally Elected, Community Connected, highlights the connection between school trustees and their communities, and we now have a special video to hear more about these important connections here in Lubbock ISD. Thanks again to y'all.
Thank you.
The school board is very important because those are individuals that come from that community base. They come out and say, what is best for our children, right, education-wise? What is best for the school district moving forward?
There's a sense of community, especially in Lubbock, where you take pride in your neighborhood and what's around you, and just as important as a business might be to a local neighborhood, I think schools are also a staple of a community.
We choose to support Lubbock ISD because we're part of Lubbock. We want to help our community, our kids, and especially our bus kids. We really need help. But there's a lot of children out there doing without, and we want to help them.
I think it's very important to have strong local schools, public schools, because they are that foundation for that next generation that will enter into the workforce, be the next local leaders in our local government. They're just building that they're building that next generation. I think that's so important.
School board and the school district always reflects the character of the community, and that's why it's important to elect parents and stakeholders from the community to the school board. And you know, what local control they have, they can exercise that as elected officials.
Somebody who's representing and serving on the board is also someone who you might be connected with in your community, whether that's they're a regular customer at your business, or they serve, or they bank with your business.
I've learned that the Lubbock community is all about service, and it's obvious that these are individuals that love Lubbock and want to do the best possible for Lubbock.
I think a board member is a bridge between what's happening in the district and the execution of, between the district and the community, or maybe even between the district and teachers. I think they are the bridge for a lot of different groups within the district and the community, and it's super cool what they do.
That Lubbock really is kind of this drawing melting pot of different communities, and so it's important to have locally elected officials and locally elected folks serving on our school board. Community connected is super important. Obviously, being a locally owned company, we believe in those community connections, and so we're excited to support what you guys are doing.
You have to honor these people. They're over there working for our kids, our families. They're not getting paid. And some of their kids are already out of school and they're still doing it.
So to the Lubbock ISD School Board, first let me say thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for your representation, and thank you each and every day for doing the best for the youth and the children of Lubbock ISD.
Thank you to all of the Lubbock ISD Board of Trustees. We appreciate the way that you serve our district, our community, teachers and students. Happy School Board Appreciation Month.
Thank you for advocating for education.
Thank you for showing compassion to all of our families.
Thank you for your dedication to your service.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you for your resilience.
Thank you for caring for other students.
Thank you for showing integrity daily.
Thank you for managing all that's on your plate.
Thank you for volunteering so much of your time, even knowing how much it's worth.
Happy School Board Appreciation Month.
Thank you, school board members, for being there for our children, for helping them and providing for them, because I know y'all do a lot for the kids that no one knows about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lubbock ISD Board of Trustees. Happy Board Appreciation Month.
And I want to wish you a happy School Board Appreciation Month.
Thank you very much, LISD Board of Trustees. Thank you for what you do, and God bless you.
Happy School Board Appreciation Month.
Happy School Board Appreciation Month. LISD Board. Thank you. We love you.
As we conclude our special recognition, I would like to thank Alma, Katie, our community partners, and the members of our Lubbock ISD family that help make this celebration so special each year. You as school board members are ordinary people who demonstrate extraordinary dedication to our public schools. Too often we forget about the personal sacrifices you routinely make. Too often your efforts go unrecognized and unrewarded. Thank you, Lubbock ISD Board of Trustees, today, as we celebrate School Board Recognition Month, and every day as you continue the work that is critical to the success of our district and the future of Lubbock. As citizens who serve students and represent their communities, you face complex and demanding challenges. And while you all come from different backgrounds and experiences, you come together here on our Board of Trustees with the common goal of shaping a better tomorrow for every child every day in Lubbock ISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. it's not normal or protocol and it's not on the script, but I do want to give the trustees at this moment to say thank you to those that have helped to celebrate us. Thank you to Aaron Gregg and Communications Department and everyone here at Lubbock ISD for recognizing the work of each and every trustee. Trustee?
Thank you, PTA. Appreciate it. That was awesome. I've said this time and time again after we get recognized that the teachers are the ones that really deserve all the recognition. They're the ones that are boots on the ground, and staff and administrators, and I thank them with all my heart and soul for every day what they deal with. They're with our kids 8 hours a day, administrators. I know this. So thank you guys for what you guys do, and thank you for Appreciation Month. God bless you guys. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you all for the kind words, and we're so appreciative. I'm very appreciative, and don't ever really feel deserving, and so but we do thank you for this time and for all the efforts that you put together. So we appreciate it very, very much. It's very humbling.
I would just echo what both Trustee Chavez and Vice President Bridges have said to everyone. Thank you. Said this the other night, but it really is my honor to serve as a trustee for District 3, and not something that I take lightly. And so thank you for making us feel special today. I appreciate it.
And again, as everybody said, thank you to the PTA and to Christy and to Aaron and your group. As Lala said, the teachers are the ones that are doing the work daily. And obviously the administrators at each campus are putting in a ton of work, as well as the folks here. And so while we make tough decisions, the tough work is done by others. And so this is my least favorite month. Thank you, guys.
Again, just to echo all the sentiments that have already been said, it's about the teachers. They're boots on the ground. They're on the front lines. They're doing it every day to help change lives, to help families make tough decisions and navigate through communities that aren't always as pleasant as we might believe that they are. There are things that go on behind the scenes in so many people that are the spine of this operation. Again, we are making policy and governing here, but it's the teachers. It is all about them and the faculty members on each campus, as well as those in central office. So to that we say thank you again for your appreciation. Item number 3 on the agenda calls for an executive closed session. An executive session will be held under the provisions of Texas Government Code Chapter 551. It's 7:18. We are adjourned at this time to close session.
Thank you, Rick.
It's 7:57 a.m. and we have reconvened from executive closed session. Do we have any action items following the closed session?
We do, Bill.
Trustee Chavez.
Thank you. We will be motioning for approval for hiring Director of School Safety and Security. I move that we hire Shane Anderson as the Director of School Safety and Security.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you to Rick Rodriguez, to Dr. Rollo. Thank you for believing in me and giving me the guidance and everything. I'm going to kind of turn this way for a second. Gonna look out here. Thank you to my Lubbock High family. Again, been in and out of Lubbock High for the past 20 years or so. So thank you for helping me grow. And I see it right there. Stacy Carter, you've done an amazing job as the Director of School Safety and Security. I think we'd all agree Lubbock ISD is so much safer now with the systems you've put in place, the hardening of the schools and everything. And your great team that you have with you, with JC, Amanda, Michael. I look forward to working with you guys and everything as we continue the traditions and everything that started. So again, thank you everybody, and have a good day.
Congratulations, Shane.
Yeah.
You're not getting.
I'm going to get in trouble.
Day, brother.
Okay. My family's here with me today. I have my wife, Emily. I have my daughter, Lainey, and my daughter, Morgan. Quick story. I was trying to explain to my second grader over here what the Director of School Safety and Security is. And I was like, well, you know those drills that you do at school, the fire drill, the lockdown drill, and you know those videos at the first of the year that you watch. And the first thing she said was locks, lights, out of sight. So, Stacy, it's working. The second graders, lights, out of sight. So there we go. Thank you, guys.
That is too
Good
funny.
night.
And my wife Emily Anderson for being here with me today. Again, thank you for following all my journeys as a coach, as a teacher, as an assistant principal at different schools and everything, and now with this new job as well. So again, thank you to my family for allowing me to do what I do. Thanks, guys.
Well, Shane, say it, Shane. We'll open the dais for trustee comments to Mr. Anderson.
Shane, it's been my pleasure knowing you for all these 20 years. You've had my kids, and Doug Young has done a phenomenal job in helping you guys grow, because I've seen it all go. Stuart, he's moved up the ladder, and again, kudos to his staff and him as well. But I look forward to seeing you in this position. I thought at first, I go, what? He really wants to do this? I thought maybe you want to be an administrator, principal or something, but this is awesome. I think that's right down your alley. You have a passion for people and what you do in life, period. So God bless you in your new journey.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Shane. It's great to see you in this position. And Stacy, thank you for building this program and getting us to a position where I think the state saw your efforts, and that's why we have such great people here. And thank you for all that you did. And Shane, I know you're going to do a great job continuing it. So,
And Stacy, that goes without saying. You were phenomenal. Thank you. Continue doing what you do for every other district.
Yeah, I was just going to say congratulations, Shane. Big shoes to fill, but we all believe that you're up to the task. You know you're going to do a great job. I don't envy your conversation with your wife later. I've been there, so congratulations.
All right. We do want to say, as it's already been said, a big thank you and a show of appreciation to our predecessor. Thank you, Stacy. At this time, we'll move to item number 6 on the agenda, citizens' comments. The next order of business is citizen comments. Before we begin, I would like to review the provisions in board policy governing the procedures of public participation as reflected in BED Local. The audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on the matters being considered by the board. I will remind members of the board that the citizen comment section of our board meeting is for the purposes of listening to patrons, but we are not allowed to comment or debate on issues that are not posted. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes, and a timer will go off at the completion of 3 minutes. I would ask that you conclude your comments within the time limit allowed. As I call your name, if you would come up to the podium and state your name for the record. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Sharnice King to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Sharnice King. From the time I was a child, my mother, Shonda King, has always dreamed of being in education. My mother never had any other plans outside of education. The opportunities for promotion came to her. My question is, why wasn't LISD willing to take a risk for her, such as applying for a waiver? She has been with LISD for 20 years. My mother has been a teacher, instructional coach, and an assistant principal. Teacher of the Year, both here in Texas and in Florida. In each role, she has exceeded expectations. My mom is currently at Bean Elementary, where she is still giving her 100%. She loves children and the culture of education. She has had her livelihood interrupted for the past 9 months. It has been traumatizing for all of us. This has affected her health and her mental capacity. This country is big on wellness. Did anyone check on her wellness during this time? Please think about where you sit right now, and also think about my mother's future. Leadership encompasses far more than just a position or title. It also encompasses personal qualities, such as empathy and integrity and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Jadell Scott to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Jadell Scott. In the fall of 2018, I moved to the city of Lubbock and connected with persons of great character, many who have converted their passions into their profession, many who are selfless, and many who want the best, not just for themselves, but for others, but for the others around them. Shonda King happens to be one of those connections. I'm not a product of her academic teachings, but I am a product of her life doctrine. Shonda King has affected the lives of many men, women, and children in such a positive way. And I wish I had the time to tell you about all the products of Shonda King. A phenomenal educator, one who is morally, spiritually, and consciously aware of the job that they do, should never be stripped of the opportunity to impact the life of a child. It's always a sad day when one has been stripped of their passions. Trust me, I know the feeling. I come to you all today to say passion is very hard to find in the world that we live in today. And Shonda King, as I have stated before, is one who has converted her passion into her profession for over 20 years. My only question to you all is, why didn't the board apply for a waiver to provide Shonda King an adequate amount of time to become certified? It's hard to be successful when trauma is brought upon a person. I couldn't imagine if my employer asked me to do the things that were asked of her in regards of her title as a principal. This too shall pass, and I am hopeful that a wise decision is made on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. This time, I'd like to invite Mrs. Minnie Darlene McCormick to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name has already been stated, is Minnie Darlene McCormick. I'm here to speak on behalf of Ms. King. To the Board of Trustees, thank you for the opportunity to speak on the behalf of a most phenomenal administrator and educator, Mrs. Shonda King, the epitome of a leader with characteristics that truly define a person in the position to lead others. A woman I've known for many years, not only personally, but professionally as well. While working with her for 3 years, I have witnessed her infallible character. The integrity she exudes is an example to all who have had the pleasure of being in her presence. It was evident for me as I watched her interact with the students how much she was totally invested in their learning and well-being. Ms. King wanted each one of them to excel in every area. Her relationship with her teachers was one of support and encouragement, showing great interest in how they felt and what they had to say. She was always approachable and easy to talk to. I've seen her tenacity in difficult situations, her compassion for others. Her persevering spirit is her covering for success, in spite of the obstacles she may have faced. This is a resilient administrator and a remarkably steadfast woman of impeccable strength. She is one who can be counted on to finish any task set before her. To me, she is the ultimate educator in whom I've learned so much. I've learned how to maneuver equitably in instances of contrast and great conflict. Patience is her suit of armor, understanding her shield, and love her weapon of defense. Mrs. Shonda King, a mentor, an administrator, and a leader to many, especially me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCormick. This time, I'd like to invite Mr. Samuel King Sr. to the podium.
Good morning.
morning,
My name
Bishop.
is Samuel King. I'm here on behalf of Shonda King. Shonda King was recruited for a position at Talkington School for Young Women Leaders. She was interviewed and qualified through HR and the Board of Trustees. You presented her to our community as the principal of Talkington. And it seemed at the time as a sincere and confident choice that you made in regards to her. That is until there was a allegedly call made and contacted in regards to Shonda King. From that point, she was told to resign or be terminated. Her time was up. She was locked out of all access to the Lubbock Independent School District system, stripped of her equipment, including her badge. She was banned from going to any school campuses and making any contact with any Lubbock employees, LISD employees. This treatment to me was unfair, degrading, especially for a 19-year veteran employee who never defrauded, in any way maliciously put herself in the appointed position that she had. Shonda King is a woman of integrity and commitment. 34 years of marriage, 25 years plus school system, over 30 years of serving numerous communities spiritually, mentally, and physically. If you were to speak to any of our co-workers, former co-workers, and even supervisors, they would speak highly of her character and her integrity. As I speak to you right now, she has support from Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, California, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, just to name a few, that have already voiced their opinion and wonderings and concerns regarding this unfair treatment. Shonda King, if she was your best choice, and indeed she was, the best candidate for Talkington School, why was she so quickly dismissed, demeanored, and demoralized by the Lubbock Independent School District? I'll tell you why. Because someone that was envious, jealous, and did not want a black woman to be the principal of Talkington School did whatever it took to have her removed. Thank you.
This time I'd like to invite Phyllis Gambles to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Phyllis Gambles. I stand this morning as an advocate. I've been coming, and I'll continue. I've watched students, parents, and educators stand right here and ask us as a community. Today, you guys were recognized, and some of that is deed worthy. I stand today as a citizen, as the chairperson for Legal Redress NAACP, Lubbock chapter. Heartbroken, because again, we're asking this board to do the right thing. I've been here and I've heard the family of Shonda King speak about an administrator, a person that did principal duties. This is what put her on your radar to even consider for this position. And yet, she's been demoralized and she's been tossed to the side. I stood here in support of Mr. Chavez. Same situation. We move a whole law program out of Estacado, a very successful program. He was never considered as a part of that move. How many people do we demoralize? How many people do we throw away? I'm heartbroken. Are we not human? Is there no integrity? It's my charge to find eyes to review the Lubbock ISD board outside of Lubbock. I don't think we can get a fair evaluation of what really goes on if it's only us looking at us. And I charge myself to find those entities to step in and take a look. Thank you.
This time I'd like to invite Joe Canaster to the podium. There, Joe Canaster. All righty. Then we will proceed on with the agenda. Item number 7, financials. Before we begin, do we have any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding any of the board agenda items posted? Seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of budget summary report for the month ending November 30th, 2023. Budget amendments and budget transfers to the month of November 2023. Statement of taxes collected for the month ending the same period. And the investment report for the period of November 1st through November 30th, 2023. Ms. Jennings.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for your service and your dedication to the students and the staff of this district. I know you put in timeless, sometimes thankless hours, and just know that you're very, very appreciated. On to the financials for November 30th. There were 2 major amendments for the month. One for $466,000 in E-rate, that was for technology purchases, and then $648,000 for in general fund for roof repairs. Our tax collections are just starting to come in January, so you'll see those ticking up in the future months. And then our investment report for the month, our average rate of return was 6.3%. I would like to point out that our current ADA as of yesterday has dropped since the second 6 weeks. I had presented to the board at that time that we were 550 ADA over what we had budgeted. As of yesterday, we were only 32 over ADA, which we anticipated it to drop, but we're still a little bit ahead at this point. At this time, I'll answer any questions.
Trustees?
Motion to approve is presented.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 8, consent agenda. Pardon me. Consider board approval of the minutes for the regular meeting and workshop held December 14, 2023. Do we have any corrections to the minutes from December meeting as printed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as printed. Item 9, academic action items. Approval of the 2024-2023 school calendar. This time I'd like to invite Mrs. Beth Bridges, the executive, Beth Barrett. I'm sorry.
I was like, wait a minute.
She's
I'm gonna
right
write
here.
a script. I don't know.
Mrs. Beth Barrett, Executive Director of Leadership and Professional Development, to present.
Thank you. Good morning, President Stubblefield and Trustees, Dr.
Good morning.
Rollo. I'm excited to bring to you this morning a recommendation from our DEIC regarding our calendar for the next academic school year. Just a reminder, it's based on state law and board policy of the minimum requirements of 187 staff days and a minimum of 75,600 instructional minutes. And in December, we shared with you 2 options, and then we opened that to a community input. They were very similar this year, with the main difference adding an additional planning day for staff for the second option. And we, of course, took that for feedback, and the results, we received over 2,000 responses, and you can see the breakdown. The majority of the responses came from parents. We also had students that responded to the survey, which was great to see as well. And the results of that survey is that 77% preferred option B, which is the one that has that additional planning day for staff. So the DEIC would like to recommend to you today that that is the calendar that we approve for next school year. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Trustees? Dr. Rollo?
I would just like to thank Beth and our subcommittee of DEIC, which is made up of staff and parents and community members for their work on this. As you guys are very well aware, there's not a lot of wiggle room. But one thing that I think is important to note publicly is that we did make the November election day a school holiday, as well as the day prior to that for safety reasons. But that also gives us a little bit of a fall break in early November.
All righty. I want to thank you guys for all the hard work that you do on the calendar every year. I know it is an eventful
It is.
task.
It's an interesting process, and anybody that wants to join us next year, we would be happy to have them. Thank you.
And also, I like it's almost 80% of the folks
Yes.
that
Yes.
it's supporting this particular calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the 2024-2023 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes unanimously. Approval of data sharing agreement with Texas Tech University Upward Bound. Dr. Rilla?
Yes, so this is just asking you to consider approving a data sharing agreement with Texas Tech in support of our Upward Bound program. Upward Bound is a very high researched, Rick is nodding his head because he was actually, it helped him get through school when he was in high school, the Upward Bound program. So it's been around for a long time, Rick Rodriguez. But we have it at our 4 comprehensive high schools. It's a great way to ensure that kids are getting the support they need to get through high school with all of the credits they need in order to advance on to college.
Trustees, any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes unanimously. Approval of innovative course, agricultural leadership, research, and communications. Dr. Rilla.
Yes, so we are very excited to bring this to you today as we have expanded our programming with our new Agri-STEM facility. We are asking you to approve an innovative course, and TEA allows us to do this with board approval. This would be a course in agriculture leadership, research, and communications, and so students would be allowed in grades 10 through 12 to take this course at the Agri-STEM facility and get credit for it. As you can see, as we have expanded our offerings to our current century and to prepare kids in agricultural career pathways, I'm sure it's easy to see how leadership, research, and communications is an important part of that in agribusiness. We will be able to teach this course with existing staff, and I see Michelle Pionczyk back there, so I'm sure she would be happy to answer any questions that you may have that I have not covered.
Michelle, I'd just like to know, when are we looking at getting the course started for in the fall? Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you for what you do, Michelle. It's a great opportunity to see you guys already expand so quickly. Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the Agriculture Innovative Course on Leadership?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes 5-0. Item 10, administrative action items. Approval of the 2024-2025 Public Information Act calendar. Dr. Rollo.
Yes, so along with the approval of our regular academic calendar, we also are required now, after this last legislative session, to approve a Public Information Act calendar. So we declare which days will count as the days that, as we notify the Attorney General of things that have to be considered by him, we have 10 days, business days, excluding holidays, but we have to declare which of those days are considered holidays. So this calendar that we're asking for your approval shows which day that Lubbock ISD will consider holidays. And this has not changed from last year for this year.
Trustees, any comments? We've had a chance to look over the calendar. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes 5-0. Item B, consideration and approval of the 2024 general election items. This is going to be a lengthy reading, but it must be read into the record.
Yes, so we are just asking for your approval of the 2024 May 4th elections. These are some general election items. In the motion, we'll need to read all of those, but you can see them listed there for your consideration. And it's my understanding that this is the first tranche of election items. We'll have a second tranche that we'll bring to you at the next meeting.
All righty. The following are the items up for consideration and approval regarding the 2024 general election. Item number 1, consideration and possible action to order a general election for the election of 3 trustee positions for places 1, 2, and 5, and 1 at-large trustee position to be held on May 4th, 2024. Item 2, consider and possible approval of the notice of general election and order of general election to early voting and for election day. Item 3, consider and possible approval of resolution to conduct a joint election on May 4th, 2024 with all cities and schools with territory inside Lubbock County that may require a May 4th, 2024 election. Item 4, consider and possible approval of the joint election contract with Lubbock County for 2024 elections. Item 5, consider and possible approval to appoint Roxanne Stinson, Elections Administrator to serve as the Joint Elections Officer. Item 6, consider and possible approval to appoint Roxanne Stinson, Elections Administrator, to serve as the Joint Early Voting Clerk. And item 7, consider and possible approval to appoint to the Elections Office located at 1308 Crickets Avenue as the main early voting polling place. Do I have a collective motion to approve the 2024 general election items as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Lala. Thank you, Ryan. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 11, procurement and contracts, approval of district purchases. Mr. Rick Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, I'm going to take my point of personal privilege to allow, or to thank you guys for your service, for your support of us and our students. It's already been said, but I appreciate your partnership and your sacrifice to you and your families. So we'll get started. Not a lot for us to, or for y'all to consider this morning. We have two purchases for classroom furniture. And so this will be for Evans Middle School, again, consuming the final parts of ESSER funds for them, and then a set of Chromebooks for our students. So those are the two purchases we bring before you for consideration this morning.
Trustees, any comments?
Rick, are these the same Chromebooks they've been using through Dell?
Yes, ma'am.
It is, okay.
All right. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Motion passes 5-0. Approval of district construction purchases. Rick?
Thank you, Pastor Stubblefield. So we have one item to bring before you, which is professional fees. These are the fees that are associated with Brown, Parsons, Cavazos, and Evans roof repairs and miscellaneous work.
Roofs.
It's what we do these days.
You know it. Do I have a motion to approve district construction purchases as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes 5-0. Item C, approval of construction manager at-risk delivery method and delegation of authority. Rick Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Pastor Stubblefield. So this is a standard item, delivery method and delegation of authority using the construction manager at risk. And so asking for delegation of authority for choosing criteria, relative weights, ranking, and selection, evaluation of bids, proposals, or qualifications for procuring construction services for roof replacement and miscellaneous repairs at Wester Elementary.
I'm going to read this entire motion, trustees. Do I have a motion to approve delegating authority to the superintendent for choosing criteria, relative weights, ranking, selecting, and evaluation of proposals, and approval of the use of construction manager at risk delivery method for the project presented?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes unanimously. Approval of construction job order contracting delivery method and delegation of authority. Again, Mr. Rick Rodriguez.
Thank you again. So a different delivery method for and delegation of authority for job order contracting. Again, same standard item, asking for delegation of authority to Dr. Rollo for choosing criteria, relative weights, ranking, selection, evaluation, bids, proposals, and qualifications for procuring construction services for hallway painting at Bean Elementary.
Do I have a motion to approve delegating authority to the superintendent for choosing the criteria, relative weights, ranking, selecting, and evaluation of proposals and approvals of the use of construction job order contracting delivery method for the projects presented?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion passes unanimously. Item 12, district-wide intruder detection audit report findings. Dr. Rollo.
Yes, so as you guys are well aware, a high priority of Lubbock ISD is keeping our students and staff safe every day. For the last 2 years, TEA has worked with the Region Service Centers to conduct intrusion detection audits. And this year we've had multiple audits conducted on our campuses. In fact, I think we're at 40% of our campuses have had an audit thus far this year. During the most recent round of audits, we did have 2 findings. These audits test whether a campus is accessible to an unauthorized individual. Our findings in these two instances were related to mechanical issues with exterior doors at each location where we had a finding. These issues were resolved very quickly with the help of our facilities department and our local vendors. The staff, along with the substitutes at each campus, were trained quickly and corrective action was put into place. We acknowledge that the community and parents are interested in the details of the audit results, but as we have shared with you before, we do not want to share the specific information and for fear of that compromising safety in any way. But I will share with you in executive session the specifics around these. I want to thank Stacy Carter. I know she's been thanked already, and I think she has stepped out, but we are grateful to her and also very grateful to our facilities team, Rob Nance. When these things happen, they are corrected very, very quickly. It is a top priority.
Trustees, any comments or questions?
I have a quick question, Kathy. So does that also include in closed session where they talk about what mechanical issues it was?
I can share, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, no, publicly you can't share that?
I think it would be better to not, and I'll share that with you in executive session.
Kathy, what, I guess, for lack of a better term, if a campus has multiple infractions, is there some kind of, I guess, detriment to the leader of that campus that we're going to do to make sure that?
This was not the fault of the leader at the campus, and it was one infraction at two different campuses.
But I just mean in general. I'm saying in general, like as we, it seems like we're through a year of these or whatever. If there's multiple occurrences at a campus, will further steps be taken to ensure that safety is more of a priority?
Yes, we would certainly work with the principal and training the staff to ensure that that safety is a top priority on that campus. We have not had campuses that have had multiple infractions. In fact, we've done very, very well in these audits.
Agree. And with it being a mechanical failure, that the auditors no doubt pointed out the mechanical failure and recommend it, or how does that work?
We call Rob, turn in a work order, and those are repaired immediately.
Immediately. How many doors was it?
2.
2 doors. All right. Any other questions?
1 door each at 2 different campuses.
1 door each at 2 different campuses. All righty. There is no action needed here on the district-wide intruder detection audit report findings as it is a report. At this time, before we proceed to the next item, we will take a short recess to allow for the room to be set up for the next item on the agenda. It is 8:34, and we will recess and start at 8:40. All right, thank you. It is 8:45. We are reconvening from the break. We're at item 13 of the agenda today, the Level 3 grievance hearing of Shonda King. For the purposes of this hearing, Mr. Randall Duke will be joining via Zoom. In order to ensure that he is able to hear all comments and discussions, I ask that you please speak directly into your mics when it is your turn to speak. We want to check to make sure that Mr. Duke is with us.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Duke.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
We're well. We're going to need to turn that up a little. We can barely hear it. Thank you, Kenneth. Are you hearing us well, Mr. Duke?
Loud and clear. Thank you.
There you go.
There you
Thank
go.
you. We hear you well now. The next item on the agenda is the grievance hearing for Shonda King. Dr. Rollo, has there been a request for the hearing to be in an open session?
Yes.
The board then will remain in open session to hear the Level 3 complaint of Mrs. Shonda King.
Good morning. My name is Shonda King, and Mr. Randall Duke, my attorney, will speak on my behalf, and then he will allow me to speak towards the end.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to read some proceedings here. I think we're adjusting mics. We're okay? Sounds a little loud. Is that good?
You're good.
Okay. Pursuant to board policy, DGBA local, Shonda King has filed 2 grievances with the district regarding her desire to be reinstated as the principal of Talkington School for Young Women Leaders, and as well as other complaints. The 2 grievances have been consolidated for this hearing. In accordance with the grievance policy, DGBA local, I have received and distributed to the board copies of Mrs. King's written complaint forms, the administration's written responses to the Level 1 grievance, and the Level 2 appeal in the written record. Mrs. King filed her Level 1 grievance on June 26, 2023, regarding her complaint that she be reinstated as principal of Talkington School for Young Women Leaders and be given a minimum of 1 year to complete her principal certification, among other requests. Mr. William Smith, Director of Human Resources for the district, provided his timely response to the Level 1 grievance on July 27, 2023. Mrs. King then filed an appeal to the Level 2 on August 14, 2023. The Level 2 appeal was heard by Ken Caceres, the Level 2 hearing officer for the district. After considering the information, the Level 1 responses, and conducting his own investigation, a timely response to the Level 2 appeal was provided to Mrs. King on September 7, 2023. Mrs. King then appealed the result of the Level 2 response to Level 3 on September 19, 2023. Mrs. King also filed a new Level 1 complaint on September 19, 2023, regarding her reassignment for the 2023-2024 school year and associated pay rate adjustment. Per Mrs. King's request, this complaint has been consolidated within the Level 3 appeal and would be considered at this hearing. According to board policy DGBA local, the Level 3 hearing was scheduled following Mrs. King's completion of her Family Medical Act leave. Also for the record, there is a quorum of board members present at this proceeding, and I am Bill Stubblefield, President of the Board of Trustees for the Lubbock Independent School District. To establish on record that the board can consider a fair decision, it is my understanding that Zach Brady has recused himself from the hearing and any discussions thereto. I ask that any member of this hearing body who cannot be fair and unbiased in deciding this matter to excuse himself or herself. Is there anyone who feels that they should be excused? Seeing none, let the record reflect that Zach Brady has officially recused himself. No one else has indicated that they cannot be impartial in this matter. In order to provide the most accurate record possible, an audio recording and video of this proceeding is being made. Please avoid talking when others are speaking so that the tape will reflect the proceedings accurately. Also, please identify yourself when you speak so that the record will be clear. At this time, will Mrs. King or her representative please state your name?
I'm Randall Duke, and I'm Miss King's attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. Again, Mr. Duke is appearing with us by Zoom according to law. Will the representative for the Lubbock Independent School District Administration please state your name?
Ken Cáceres.
Thank you, Mr. Cáceres. We have convened today to consider the grievance of Mrs. Shonda King. This is a Level 3 hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to give Mrs. King the opportunity to fully present any testimony or evidence she may have in support of her grievance on the issue that the district should reinstate her as principal of Talking School for Young Women Leaders, allow her a minimum of 1 year to complete her principal certification, reinstate her salary as principal, as well as other requests as stated in her complaint, and to allow the administrator to also present pertinent testimony and or evidence. The hearing procedure we use is simple. Mrs. King will go first and present her complaints, followed by Mr. Cáceres, Level 2 hearing officer for Lubbock ISD, who will then have an opportunity to respond. Mrs. King, you or your representative may make your presentation by presenting any relevant testimony or evidence in support of your allegations. And at the conclusion of that presentation, Mr. Cáceres may make his own presentation as he deems necessary. I will allow each party a maximum of 15 minutes to make that presentation. If either party has remaining time, a maximum of 5 minutes may be reserved for closing remarks. I ask trustees to refrain from asking any questions during the presentation times so that each party might benefit from the full 15 minutes, which has been allotted. Our notes, take notes, and we will address those questions at the end of Mr. Cáceres' presentation. To all in attendance, please note that this is not a trial-type evidentiary hearing. It is instead a hearing according to board policy, and it will be conducted accordingly. Thus, Mrs. King, in accordance with DGBA local, you are precluded from bringing up any issue not already reflected in the record. This is not a court proceeding. Thus, there will not be any cross-examinations. In addition, in the interest of time, I will allow witnesses for both parties to remain in the room. Are there any questions for me related to these procedures? If not, let us proceed. Mrs. King, you now have a maximum of 15 minutes, and you may now begin your presentation. Let the record reflect that the time is now 8:53 a.m. It's about to come. Do you wish to reserve any time to make closing remarks?
Yes, please, 5 minutes towards the end.
Okay. Let the record reflect that Mrs. King has requested to reserve 5 minutes of that time for closing statements.
Mr. Duke.
All right, thank you so much. And Mr. Stubbs, member of the board, thank you for your time today. In advance, I have a little bit of bronchitis, and I apologize in advance for any disruption that may cause. Excuse me. Mr. Stubbs' recitation of procedurally how we got to this point with the original grievance filed by Ms. King, which traveled up to level 3, and then the additional level 1 grievance, which was filed on September 19th. I would like to focus in, for the board's benefit, to the level 1 that was filed on September 19th, 2023, which essentially contains the contentions, which are all consolidated into the two grievances. And really, while there's a lot of information in the two consolidated grievances, the issue before you is fairly straightforward. And that issue is that we contend that Ms. King was unlawfully reassigned from campus administrator, as mentioned, principal of Talkington School for Young Women Leaders, reassigned to interventionist with Bean Elementary. Obviously, a totally different professional capacity. And we believe that is the pivot point of the issue here today. Of course, her salary was reduced as a result of that reassignment. We note that she had previously served as administrator in the form of assistant principal at previous 5 years at various schools. Most recently, I believe, as the AP of Irons Middle School for 22-23. I'm going to go ahead and refer to Ms. King's narrative, which is in the level 1 filed on September 19th, 2023, if anyone would like to follow along. And the issue we're dealing with, again, is the reassignment. And on August 30th, 2023, Ms. King received a memo from Mr. William Smith, Director of Human Resources, which we attached to the level 1 as attachment 1. We'll refer to that as the memo. The memo asserts, and I'm quoting, due to a change in assignment for the 2023-2024 school year, an adjustment in pay is necessary starting September 1, 2023. The new assignment will be interventionist at Bean Elementary. A 10-month contract will be assigned. The role will not have supervisory responsibilities and will be categorized as exempt. The change will result in a pay adjustment, and I have provided the calculations below. These changes will be effective September 5, 2023. The memo goes further to state the pay grade would be at that of a, quoting, teacher librarian nurse salary schedule, and calculates a new daily rate at $327.81 for 167 days on a 10-month calendar for a new annual base pay of $54,744.27. We contend that for the reasons set forth in the level 1 and the level 3, that the assertions and positions and actions taken in the memo are contrary to applicable law and district policy, arbitrary and capricious, without justification, and constitute an unacceptable working condition. More specifically, we attach as attachment 3 to the level 1 Ms. King's 22-23 administrator term contract, and as attachment 4, the 23-24 administrator term contract, which we contend is still valid and in force. We also attach as attachments 6, 7, and 8 job descriptions within Lubbock ISD for campus administrator, principal, campus administrator, assistant principal, and interventionist, respectively, attachments 6 through 8. Obviously, common sense would tell us, and the job descriptions confirm, that the positions of administrator on one hand and interventionist on the other portray entirely different professional capacities. And we contend, King contends, that the attempted reassignment from campus administrator to interventionist, as asserted in the memo, constitutes an unlawful change in her professional capacity without complying with the procedures, notices, and due process required by, without limitation, Texas Education Code sections 21.206A, 21.206B, and 21.211. We attach those statutes as attachment 9, as well as Lubbock ISD Board Policy, DFBA, and DFBB, which we attach as attachment 10. And the bottom line, the statutes and the policy require that without proper termination of a contract or non-renewal, An educator must be put in the position of the previous capacity unless one of those events happened. That did not happen. The district simply attempted to reassign her from the administrator position to the interventionist position, excuse me. And that is a completely separate professional capacity, which is not allowed by policy or the statutes. As relief, Ms. King requests that she be employed as campus administrator and her annual base pay, to remain at $76,298.11 at the pay grade of administrative professional 5. We also ask for her cell phone stipend and that all attendant compensation, raises, and benefits be calculated on that basis. She further requests that she be paid all back pay, raises, compensation, and benefits based on that annual base salary and stipend from the date noted in the memo, the effective date of September 5 through the effective date of the granting of relief before this board. Now, we do understand that the district will likely contend that Ms. King was not certified as an administrator and could not serve as such. Well, as we mentioned, she had served as such for the previous 5 years. The district had full knowledge of her certifications, and she was offered the position as principal at Talkington with that knowledge. However, should the board make a finding that that is a critical issue, Ms. King also requests that she be afforded to qualify for the position of campus administrator by allowing her to obtain an intern or probationary certificate after meeting the requirements for an educator's preparation program under Chapter 230 of the Texas Administrative Code, and that if necessary, the district could file for a certification waiver through TEA while she is completing that educator program. Lastly, as relief, and I include this in all grievances, I don't have any reason to think that this would be the case, but we request that Ms. King not be retaliated for the filing of this grievance and that no negative evaluation or employment decision be made for the filing of the grievance. With that, Ms. King, you prepared and worked with me to prepare all the grievance record, and you've heard the presentation that I've just made on your behalf. Is there anything that you would like to amplify on, clarify, or add?
Goes back to the very basic. Thank you so very much, Mr. Duke, is that I worked as an assistant principal for 5 years with the Lubbock ISD. I absolutely love the field of education. When all of this came down to the very hearing of someone heard or someone made a phone call concerning me, I don't understand why at the very cusp of this that Max Flores or whomever didn't say, let's do the thing immediately that we need to do, which is to file for a waiver. There is a waiver there. I have the paperwork right here. You can take one, pass it down. Here's the state waiver guideline book. Take one, pass it down. It tells the basics.
We
Can't accept it?
Yeah, we can't accept it.
Okay.
It's precluded because it's not part of your original packet.
Okay, well, that's what he talked about. That's what Randall Duke was talking about, was the waiver.
Okay. You have reserved 5 minutes for your closing. It is that time, and you can, at this moment, continue your thoughts, and you will have 5 minutes to close them out.
Again, I thank everyone
We're going to let that timer come up to give you the 5 so that you'll know.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I appreciate this time. Thank you, Mr. Duke, my family, everyone that's here. I love Lubbock ISD. Lubbock ISD was my choice. I could have went to Friendship District. I could have went to all these other districts, but I decided to be at the place where I called home, which is Lubbock ISD. I come from poverty, so I understand what hard times look like. I also understand, you guys, this is so hard. I feel like I'm just crumbling. But I thank God for courage. My staple for this year is Joshua 1:9. Did I not command you to be courageous, that I'll be with you wherever you go? And that was my signature. I didn't know what was going to happen in the midst of everything, but I put that as my signature. When I moved from Irons to Talkington, I believe the 3rd week of May, maybe it had to be the 3rd week of May. And I began to interview the teachers, and the teacher said, well, Ms. King, one thing we need for you to be for us is we need you to be our advocate. We need you to be able to speak for us and speak loud for us. Sometimes they're not going to hear or understand what's going on at Talkington, but since you're a part of us now, I need you to be able to speak for us. And so on today, when I speak, I have to be able to speak for myself first. I can't be silenced. I have to be heard, because there's a lot of things that have happened I can't completely go all the way into because I'm trying to stick to the rule. But at the same time, we as leaders, we have to be able to stick to the rule as well. And if we say something, we have to be able to follow through with it, whatever it takes. I was recruited by Damon, by Amy, by Dr. Kathy Rollo, and for the district not to say, or for the district to say, we had no idea, that is a complete fabrication. Because 2017, Naomi, she sent me my information and said, Shonda, it's time for you to renew your teacher certification. Your systems gives alerts. Now this time, I don't know why the system didn't give an alert. I don't know why I didn't get that phone call or that email. But everything in the system with Lubbock ISD, I have never lied. If the district asked me to do something, by golly, as Damon said, my boss told me to tell you to fill out that application, so by golly, you need to do it. I got off, went in there, filled it out. I never falsified anything. The writing that you have in there that says, and I'm going to read it, because you tried to act like I falsified information, and I've never falsified information. It says, however, on your Lubbock Independent School District online application dated April 19, 2023, in response to the question, is your certification up to date and current? You answered yes. That answer is still yes, because it has no specificity to it. It's not saying your principal certification, it's simply saying your certification. Now, you may say, well, since you're filling out that application, it should be assumed. No, it should not be assumed. It should be written so that it can be followed up. Also, it says, further on the transfer request in response to the question, is your certification up to date and current? You answered yes. Again, it was current. And so, to act as if I have misled the district in any way, that is not my character. I am a woman of integrity. And if I say something, I'm going to do my very best to do it. Now, on June 15th, we had a board meeting. And the only reason why, because it says in this paperwork, oh, you told something that shouldn't have been told, that was nowhere on the paperwork. It wasn't on the docket. Well, the reason why I had to speak out is because on June 1st, I received an email from Max Flores and from Dr. Kathy Rollo. And that email said, Shonda, you have so many days to resign or be terminated. And if you don't resign by the 5th of June, our next step for you is for you to be terminated. So they put their foot, so to say, on my neck, so I could not breathe. So me and my family, we're panicking, preparing for what do we need to do in order to make sure that. So we went out and spoke. And we spoke on my behalf. I need 1 year. I know I'm able to do it. I need 1 year from the time, not in trauma.
Go ahead and finish your sentence.
Not in trauma. It's hard to be able to study when someone is saying, I'm going to terminate you or you need to resign. You cannot think in trauma. It's not the best for us as people. Let's not be inhumane. Let us have empathy. Let us have love. Let us have the
I
integrity
have to
that
thank
we
you
walk
for
in.
I have to thank you, Mrs. King, for your presentation at this time, according to law. Okay? Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Duke, for your representation. At this time, Mr. Casares, you now have a maximum of 15 minutes to respond to Mrs. King's complaint. Do you wish to reserve time for closing comments?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Let the record indicate that it is now 9:10. We're putting 10 minutes on, and you will have 5 for closing.
Good morning, Board of Trustees, Mr. Duke and Mrs. King. There are 2 filed grievances, one on June 26, 2023, and another on September 19, 2023, which have been consolidated into this one Level 3 hearing. In response, I have provided you with a binder which contains the written record for the 2 grievances and the 2 hearings conducted and responses given pursuant to Board Policy DGBA Local. Mrs. King and her representative have timely received the same binder. Due to the volume of correspondence and artifacts, I have provided the Board and Mrs. King the pertinent documents to which I will refer. Please turn to Document 1, which are pages 1 through 7 in the handout and 453 in your binder, and the second grievance, which is page 234 in your binder. Mrs. King's first complaint demands that she be reinstated as principal of Talkington School for Young Women Leaders. In addition, Mrs. King desires that she be employed as a campus administrator, be given 1 year to complete the principal certification requirements, be compensated at Administrative Professional 5 with back pay as of September 5th, 2023, and other additional benefits. In the consolidated grievance on this Level 3, she asks that she be afforded the opportunity to qualify for that position by allowing her to obtain a probationary certificate and the district file for a certification waiver through TEA. During that time, with no retaliation for filing the grievance. It is important for the board to note some of the previous timelines that will impact your decision on this Level 3 grievance. Please turn to Document 2, which is page 199 in your binder. First, in May of 2023, Mrs. King was named principal of Talkington School for Young Women Leaders. The assignment was partially based upon her statement in her application that she held the appropriate certificate. Note on the document that Mrs. King indicated that certificate is held. Please turn to Document 3, which is page 127 in your binder. Further, you will see that her contract with Lubbock ISD was conditioned upon Mrs. King providing certification as required by law, the Texas Education Agency, and the Texas Board for Educator Certification, and providing no false statements or misrepresentations. The main issue the board is charged with is to determine whether or not Mrs. King was qualified under Texas law to be a principal. Please turn to Document 4, which is page 148 in your binder. Under Texas law, there are 5 requirements to obtain a principal certificate. Hold a master's degree accredited by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. Hold a valid classroom teaching certificate. Have 2 years of creditable teaching experience as a classroom teacher. Successfully complete an approved principal educator preparation program, and successfully complete the required exam. As such, it was discovered on May 30th, 2023, by the Executive Director of Human Resources, Max Flores, that Mrs. King did not have an administrator certificate as she had not successfully completed the required exam. The principal certificate also applies for assistant principals. Mrs. King admitted to Mr. Flores that she did not have a principal certificate, which was confirmed on the TEA's website. So please look at Documents 5 and 6, which are pages 216 and 138 in your binder. Therefore, according to Mrs. King's administrator contract, the contract is void. Please turn to Document 7, which is page 125 in your binder. Please follow as I read the board's requirements under the Education Code regarding the district's responsibility for an employee's failure to have a certificate. An employee's probationary, continuing, or term contract under this chapter is void if the employee does not hold a valid certificate or permit issued by the State Board of Educator Certification. In other words, Mrs. King has no contract with the district as a principal. Mrs. King chose not to resign her position as principal of Talkington, even though she knew she did not have the appropriate certification. Please turn to Document 8, which is page 167 in your binder. In compliance with state law, on June 16, 2023, the board had its on agenda termination of a contract of a principal. Please turn to document 9, which is page 169 in your binder. Instead of immediately terminating her employment, Mrs. King was afforded the following opportunity, which was presented by then board president Zach Brady and superintendent Dr. Rollo, who met with Mrs. King and her husband. All agreed to the following key points. The agreement is between Lubbock ISD through Dr. Kathy Rollo and Shonda King, dated June 15th, 2023. It was signed upon knowledge that Mrs. King did not have her principal certification required by law. Dr. Rollo agreed to extend the date for successful completion of her certification requirements to retake the test by July 26, 2023. Mrs. King agreed to resign her position as principal of Talkington. If Mrs. King obtained her principal certification, an administrative assignment would be made at the sole discretion of Dr. Rollo with board approval. If Mrs. King failed to complete her principal certification, she would have the option to take a classroom teaching position at the appropriate teacher salary. The agreement was signed by all four present. Please turn to document 10, which is page 622 in your binder. It is important to note that in Mr. Flores' investigation, he found that Mrs. King had failed the test a total of 5 times. She failed twice in Florida. Additionally, Mrs. King failed the certification test as noted on August 16, 2013, March 26, 2014, and June 3, 2014 in Texas. Mr. Flores also found there are 2 required exams for certification at present: the Texas 268 Principal as Instructional Leader online exam and the Practice Performance Assessment for School Leaders that would be required in order for her to obtain a principal certification. Mrs. King chose to retake the Texas test on July 26, 2023. Dr. Rollo agreed to give her this additional chance to pass the test. Please turn to document 11, which is page 1 in your binder. Instead of upholding her agreement with the superintendent and the board president, Mrs. King filed her level 1 grievance on June 26, 2023, demanding to be restored as principal of Talkington and be given a minimum of 1 year to complete her principal certification, among other demands. Unlike Mrs. King, the district upheld this agreement and placed Mrs. King on paid administrative leave so she could study for the administrator's test. Please turn back to document 10, which is page 622 in your binder. Mrs. King took the Administrator Texas test on July 26, 2023. She did not pass the test again for the 6th time. Please turn to document 12, which is page 621 in your binder. During all this time, Mrs. King remained on paid administrative leave at the campus administrator's salary rate until September 5th, 2023. Mrs. King's salary was then adjusted to reflect her teacher rate of pay. Pursuant to the agreement between Mrs. King and Dr. Rollo, since she did not pass her administrative test for the 6th time, Mrs. King was assigned to be a classroom teacher at a salary commensurate of a teacher at Bean Elementary. Mrs. King reported for this position on September 5th, 2023. Mrs. King filed her second grievance on September 19, 2023, which has been consolidated into this hearing. Mrs. King applied for family medical leave on September 18, 2023, which has been exhausted on September 15, 2023. She reported back to Bean Elementary on January the 8th, 2024. Mrs. King's second grievance concerns her request to be paid as a campus administrator instead of a classroom teacher. At this point, Mrs. King's campus administrator contract is also void, as an assistant principal is required to be certified. Mrs. King is not. Second, Mrs. King performed her professional term contract as a teacher at Bean Elementary at the beginning of the 2023-2024 school year and is currently serving in that position. She is being paid according to her teacher contract as required. So, in summary, the district has afforded Mrs. King exhaustive consideration in order for her to comply with state law regarding being certified as a principal. She has failed to do so after 6 attempts. In my findings, after review of all the evidence, it is my determination that Mrs. King is not certified to be a principal pursuant to TEA and board requirements and is ineligible to serve in that capacity. When the district had knowledge that her contract was void, the district could terminate her employment, suspend her employment with or without pay, or allow her to be a classroom teacher. Next, I found that Mrs. King falsified her documents on her online application to be principal at Talkington. She marked on her application that she was certified, and this is incorrect. Further, I found that Mr. Brady and Dr. Rollo went above and beyond the requirements to give Mrs. King the opportunity to get her certification instead of terminating her employment by giving her a paid leave of absence until she passed her certification requirements on July 26, 2023. Or if she failed to pass the certification test, she would be eligible for a classroom teaching position. I asked the board to uphold the Level 2 decision and deny Mrs. King's request to be employed and paid as a campus administrator at the Administrative Professional 5 pay grade plus benefits, and deny Mrs. King additional time to pass her certification test while being paid as an administrator.
Mr. Casares, you've got 5 minutes for closing remarks.
Okay. I asked the board to deny Mrs. King's Level 1 grievance filed September 19th, 2023, as she is not qualified to hold a campus administrator contract since she is not certified, and Mrs. King accepted the position of a teacher beginning September 1st, 2023, and performed under that contract and accepted the teacher's salary, which was direct deposited into her account. In the end, I would ask that you uphold the Level 2 decision and deny Mrs. King's grievance in whole on the basis that, 1, she is not qualified under state law to be an administrator. 2, the board has no choice but to deny her request under the Texas Education Code. And 3, the board has gone above and beyond what is required duty for Mrs. King. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casares. Trustees, at this time, you've noted questions. There is no time for either side to offer rebuttal. Again, this is not a court-type proceeding, but it's deliberation time. And in the deliberation at the dais, the questions that you have, we can talk amongst ourselves on those, but we cannot address those questions out in the open to any individual. So the dais is open for deliberation, as it must be done in open session.
Are you saying we can't ask Ms. Shonda King any questions? Is that what you're telling me?
That's correct. That's correct.
Why? We've asked questions before.
Well, according to the policy,
When did the policy change, though?
it hasn't changed. So what I'm saying is the policy is saying that the questions that we have, we ask them amongst ourselves, okay, in open session. And
Okay,
that's
so the
deliberation.
questions
That's what
I'm going to
deliberation-
ask, they're going to be to us. How are we going to answer those questions that I have for Shonda King?
Let her ask the question, Bill. Let her ask the question.
Prior to deliberation.
Yeah, prior to deliberation. Go ahead.
That would be my
Go ahead.
request.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Mrs. King, I had several questions, but it seems like we're only allowed to ask a few and whatnot, but I'm going to ask the ones that I feel are more important to me. I looked through all this paperwork and I looked at it with a fine-tooth comb. I also looked into some other issues on my own because it was relevant that I did. My question to you. Sorry, guys. My question to you is, are you currently studying for the principal exam?
I have not stopped studying for the principal exam.
Thank you. Okay, and I appreciate that. I hope that you do continue to do that because you are a fine administrator. You've been a great administrator for 5 years. It's noted that. It shows it. You're an educated young woman. Thank you for what you've done. I do feel I'm all over the place with this because of the things that I have read, what you have said, and there is discrepancies that I have noticed myself, and I think that they need to be noted as that. How did you get to the aspiring leadership through Lubbock ISD without anybody noticing you were not certified?
I have no idea. I filled out the application. I looked online and I saw my resume. My resume has my teacher certifications on it. There's nothing in the system about me having a principal certification. The only thing I have in the system is my degrees, which I have, and those are valid through Texas Tech. One in 1999, my bachelor's, my master's in 2013. And if I can say this, I know that I've taken the test 6 times, but there's been a time lapse in it. And of course, the test has changed.
Yeah,
And I
right.
didn't know the time that I was suspended that was my study time. I couldn't even think. I couldn't.
Sure. And there's where I feel that the district has failed you through those 5 years. I don't understand how nobody noticed it. I'm still having a hard time understanding that myself. And at those 5 years, at the very least, it should have been said, start working on this, you need to do this. That's what we do. We want to grow our own. And I believe that that's what we were trying to do with you. But I feel we failed you. I really do feel that. Do you remember the process, how you were hired?
Originally, as an assistant principal?
Yes. No. For
Talkington?
Yes, ma'am.
So for Talkington, it all started through, I was referred, Damon McCall came and talked to me multiple times. I met with Amy Stevens, and they were trying to let me know, hey, you need to go ahead and apply for Talkington. And I sat down and I read all the papers, and I was like, well, I'm unsure because I don't have high school experience. And then I actually went and spoke with Dr. Kathy Rollo for Williams. I was in the top 2. And so when I was in the top 2 for it, she said, well, let's put a pin in Williams. What do you think about Talkington? And she affirmed me in all the things from raising my children to books to being an assistant principal for 5 years. And she said, I'm not going to name the principal of the principal of Williams until you have a chance to interview for Talkington.
I'm going to have to interrupt. And I know this is going to make me look like the enemy or the bad guy. We have to stick according to the law. This is a moment where we've entered into a rebuttal of those statements. That is not my intention at all to disrespect what you're doing, Sister King, at all. But we have got to go according to the law with this.
I thought I was answering her question.
You are.
Mhm.
But so again, this is not a court type issue, right? So it's not here for me to say, okay, you got to ask leading questions. You have to answer yes or no.
Okay.
What you are doing is you've answered her question, but now you are making rebuttals to other statements that you've already presented. And so this is heavy for us all. This is not easy. I want y'all to understand that this is not easy, okay? But we have to have a deliberation. We have to have the time for other trustees to make some statements. So we're going to cut off those questions remaining with Trustee Chavez. We're going to ask if any of the other trustees have any comments or considerations on this deliberation so we can move toward the vote and the action.
I would ask if I may, Dr. Rollo, on this application, the Lubbock Independent School District online application, where the question is asked, do you hold or anticipate a Texas certificate? And the answer is certificate is held. How does the district understand that? I mean, how is that read? How would the district, as during the interview process, the application is part of that, I'm assuming. So seeing this, how would the district read that?
So the job for which the person is applying for, that is what that question is intended to be answering. Yes, you have a certification for that. So when that is checked, yes. Now, what I will share with you is that the job description that is posted has the requirements, and it does clearly state that a principal certification is required. And so normally we have systems and processes in place that those certifications, yes, we look at that, but we also go and pull on the State Board of Educator certification website to make certain this one slipped through 5 years ago. And that has not happened
And Dr.
again
Rollo,
and will not happen again.
I
So,
also have
yes.
to stop that. We have to stick to what is pertinent to the grievance, the action that she's requesting, right? That's what our deliberation is about. Whether or not we are going to reinstate her as the principal of Talkington, right? Uphold her grievance, or if we are going to uphold the administration side. So what we're doing is giving the opportunity on both parties to offer into evidence, into discussion, information that has not been part of the grievance, okay? So we can have the deliberation, about whether or not we are going to uphold the grievance, whether or not we are going to deny the grievance in part, or whether or not we're going to uphold the administration's decision.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Board President, based on the evidence presented by both sides, I move we deny the grievances and uphold the administrator's determination of at level 2 regarding the grievances, excuse me.
I have a motion from Trustee Carey to uphold the administration and deny the grievances as filed by Mrs. Shonda King. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Trustee Bridges. And now it is time for the vote on the motion to uphold the administration's determination. All those in favor of upholding the administration's decision, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please indicate by saying nay.
Nay. And I want to discuss
The motion, Trustee Chavez, passes 4-1. This hearing is concluded.
There's a discussion. We always have a discussion.
This hearing is concluded.
No, we're allowed for a discussion. Are we not? And there's always a discussion.
So what-
Anytime that we have this.
What-
He gave you opportunity for a discussion, and there was none. And so he.
I never heard the opportunity for discussion.
He gave it.
No, never heard that
Only
opportunity.
today.
With that
So-
being said, I can't further do that because I wasn't able to ask the questions that I needed to ask to make the right and fair decision. And that's important.
And I know
that be
what it's
done.
gonna look like, and I know what it's gonna be said. I absolutely know that. And I know the heart of the people that I'm looking at. Okay? I know the heart of the people that I believe I know the heart of the people that are the colleagues here. And one thing that we have to decide is whether or not that there was a law violated, and if we're going to uphold the law, the letter of the law. So I understand that you have your complaints and your concerns, as well as we do all. What I'm trying to do is to do what the law says in this position, okay? And we have voted, and it has been recorded that the record indicated that the votes on this dais at this time, with Brady recusing and Zepeda out sick, that it's 4-1 to deny the request of Mrs. Shonda King. We're upholding what the administration has decided. With that being said, I'm going to make this statement. Mrs. King still has a position with this district. It may not be the position that she feels that she's entitled to. Because, yes, everybody here recognizes the quality and character that she brings to the table. We know what she's capable of doing. The thing is, whether we decide, do we continue to allow the law to be broken, or do we fix what we found in mistake, fix the mistake that we found, okay? So we're going to conclude this matter of the hearing and the grievance process is now adjourned at 9:34. We will continue on with the next item of business as to the regular agenda, which is the workshop session.
We'll need just a moment to reset.
We're going to take a moment to reset the room in order to proceed with the workshop agenda. Again, it is 9:34, and we are recessed till 9:45. It is 9:45 a.m. We are reconvened from the recess, and we will continue on with item 14 on the agenda, the workshop. And we will, looks like we've got progress measures. And so I'm going to invite Ms. Kim Callison, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, to present the district assessment progress measures.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First off, thank you so much for your service, your time, and your dedication. It's truly appreciated. Today, we'll be looking at our progress measures for our last district assessment, which was right before the holidays. This is the same presentation that we had in student achievement last week. So just so a few of you have heard this once from both Kami and myself. As you know, the accountability cut points changed, so I'm really going to be focusing on looking at growth from first to second 9 weeks, as opposed to looking at back to last year, because those cut points are quite different for approaches, meets, and masters. They're significantly lower. So we'll be looking first at achievement and at our board goals that are focused around 3rd and 8th grade math and reading. 3rd grade reading, our goal is that by the STAR test in June, that we will have 52% of our students at the meets level. The first 9 weeks, we were at 46% of our students hitting that meets level, and we did fall back to 34%. You'll see this is the only area in which we did not experience growth from the first 9 weeks to the second. And so looking back at that, a couple of things, not excuses, but just in looking at reasons why that might happen. With our reading, particularly at elementary, writing, we just become better at scoring against a rubric by the time we get to that second 9 weeks assessment. So the teachers are a little bit stricter in their grading of the writing, and I think that causes those scores to fluctuate. As I looked at last year's scores, same thing. Between that first and second 9 weeks in reading, we see a little bit of a decrease, and I do attribute a lot of that to those writing scores. In addition, of course, my team is looking very closely at what questions they missed, why did they miss them, and tailoring some of the curriculum for next year during this same time period to make sure that we cover everything. And then lastly, those the students that are in 3rd grade are actually the students that in 2021 were in kindergarten. And as you might remember, they learned phonics with masks on their teachers and masks on themselves. And so I'm really investigating and digging into the data to see what do their early reading, the sounds, that type of thing, how does that compare to previous? So we'll continue to monitor this. We're still up significantly from last year, even with the change in cut points, but we did see that fall back in 3rd grade reading. 3rd grade math, however, we did see an increase. So the goal is that by the STAR, we'll be at 50% at meets. You can see first 9 weeks, we were at 46%. We were at 55% the second 9 weeks. So we're very pleased with that. 3rd grade reading 3rd grade math showed an increase in approaches, meets, and masters. So just a visual for you on that. 8th grade reading looked really good. Our goal is 51% meets by STAR. At first 9 weeks, we were at 57, so we had already exceeded that goal, and we actually bumped that up to 64% at the meets level. So very pleased with that. And when you compare that to last year at this time, we are very much higher than we were before. So very pleased with that. I think some of the adjustments that we made to our curriculum last year and our teachers settling into that and having a lot of buy-in around it has contributed to that. And then finally, 8th grade math. Also, the goal is 38% meets. I want to remind you that this is our on-level math and that our advanced kids, about a third of them, take the Algebra 1 test, so they're not included in this data. You can see the first 9 weeks we were at 32%, and we moved up to 45% in 8th grade. So once again, very pleased with that growth in 8th grade math. Just some notes and notices overall for the assessment. In math, we maintained or increased from that first 9 weeks in middle school and high school at all grade levels. Third grade increased from the first 9 weeks. Second through fifth, non-Eureka campuses increased from the last assessment as well. So we were very pleased with that. And we saw growth when you look at the growth from last year's STAR to this year, the second 9 weeks assessment. We saw growth in 4th, 5th, 7th advanced, 8th, and algebra that was above 60%. So that was excellent. In RLA, we saw increases in 7th, 8th, English 1 and English 2 in all performance levels. While 4th and 6th did show a little bit of regression, we still maintained the same letter grade. So it may have been that we went from an 86 to an 81, but we were still in that B range for RLA. And then we had growth from the STAR assessment in 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, and English 2, above 60%. Science, I know we don't talk about science and social studies much, but we did have achievement or an increase or maintain in 4th, 5th, 6th advanced, 7th, 8th, IPC, chemistry, and physics. And our 8th grade advanced in biology showed decreases, but they were above 90% approaches, 70 meets, and 30 masters. So we were pleased with that. Lastly, social studies, we had increases in everywhere but 8th grade, and that's where we need it. But as upon kind of digging into that a little bit, talked with the social studies team as well as looking at those assessments. The content on this second 9 weeks is the most challenging they're going to have all year. It includes Constitution, and if you ask any social studies teachers, no matter what grade level they teach, what is the hardest thing to teach? It is the constitutional units. So I think that one of the things that will be happening is throughout this semester, they do review and they have units that have been built into the curriculum to revisit all of those pieces that they were unsuccessful on. So not where we want to be in 8th grade social studies, but we're still working on that. Looking at actual growth from STAR, you are all familiar with our growth charts that our principals look at very closely, and just wanted to share some positive notes here. Growth from STAR to 5th grade RLA. We can't look at growth for 3rd grade because we don't have a STAR test in 2nd. But remember, green is good, red is not so great, and blue is maintaining. That's staying on the line. So for this particular test for 5th grade RLA, we had about 1,400 tests that were included in this. And we had over 64% of those students earned a point or half a point on growth from where they were at back as 4th graders in April and May to where they are today. So that was definitely something we can be proud of. In 5th grade, our non-Eureka, those are our campuses. These are our typically higher achieving campuses. These are the ones that chose not to use Eureka for this year as part of the pilot. We had 629 kids that took those tests or tests given, and we had over 87, or right at 87% growth in from STAR last year. So very pleased with that. Our Eureka campuses. We have a few more students that are taking these assessments. There are 784 of them, and you can see that 62% of our students showed growth. Once again, new curriculum. We saw this last year with our 3 campuses that used Eureka for the first time. Also, this curriculum spirals through. So if they didn't get it the first time around, it comes back around throughout till they get to the STAR test. So we'll be monitoring that, of course. 8th grade RLA, I think this is the one that I'm so proud of. All of our 8th graders took this test, so there were 1,498 tests given, and 81% maintained or showed growth from STAR. So that is very exciting. And then math was not terribly far behind. Once again, our on-level math, we had about 800 students that took this test, and 79% of them showed growth or maintained where they were at STAR. So that we're growing kids, which is a good thing. I wanted to share with you just a couple of things that we do. I don't know if I've told you all this before, but we do collect feedback from teachers at the end of each semester about our HQIM. And so we got some Amplify feedback, and I just wanted to share with you, because I know how hard and how much you probably heard last year how hard Amplify was, and some celebrations were that it's so much easier in the second year. And we asked them 3 questions: what's going well, what are your concerns, and what are some workable solutions that we can help you with. And by and large, our Amplify feedback is that it is engaging for students, but that it is also a lot easier the second time around. So pleased with that. And then some things we're working on, of course, are going to be assessment pieces to go along with it, writing. Eureka feedback, not quite as positive. We're in year 1, so we expected that. There are some celebratory pieces around fluency that the teachers like. Their biggest concern is pacing. It moves very quickly, but that is a good thing. We don't need to drag things out. We need to keep those kids moving. And so we're working on that. We'll be looking at the pacing calendar this summer with groups of teachers, just as we did with Amplify, and make adjustments for next year. And then one of the things I wanted to point out here with Eureka, we had a 3rd grade teacher at Miller who had a former principal from South Texas that subbed in her room this last semester. And she had an opportunity to talk to him. He was back the next day, and he stopped her, and they were kind of talking about her class. And he said, I forgot how much work Eureka is. It is so hard the first year. And she laughed and said, yes, sir, it really is. Did y'all use it? And he said yes. And he made the statement to her, and she put this in our feedback form: Eureka works. Just stay the course and you'll see it. Be patient and it will come. And so I keep using that with teachers as they're frustrated. It will come around, and we'll adjust to make it work for them. But it's going to be good for our kids. It is going to support math learning for our students, and ideally really push our kids to be in those advanced classes when they get into high school in math. So I just wanted to share that with you. Just some highlights, some action plans. We continue to support them by pulling in teacher groups, getting feedback. We have executive coaching sessions with 11 of our campuses. We've bumped that up a little bit. And then we train, of course, our teachers. We have after-hour training and our coaches 2 times a month. And then we're continuing training in writing, because that's where our bread and butter is right now with RLA. So do you have any questions for me?
I was going to ask you really quick. You mentioned about some of the kids that, because it's fast paced, so those kids that don't quite catch up. So what do? You do small groups for that?
Yes, ma'am. The curriculum is built around 60 minutes. It does take longer than that in the beginning, but as teachers get proficient at it, and in the Superintendent Advisory Council the other day, we had a math teacher that said, I'm finally getting faster at it. And so they have 30 minutes, because almost every single elementary grade level has 90 minutes for math, so they can use that last bit of time for small group. Plus, they have RTI built in where they can do small groups as well.
Nice. Thank you.
What's the determination for us to push this out throughout the district? I mean, like, what's the mark that we're trying to meet, or?
So most of our campuses are using it.
Yes, sir. 20 of 28 campuses use it at some grade level. They may not use it at every single grade level, but they're using it at some. I think this is the direction that we want to go, because it's going to build capacity across the district with our teachers and our kids. And we're not going to have teachers doing kind of piecemeal together a math curriculum, but we'll work with our principals first and our teachers to make sure that we have that buy-in and that they understand the need for this across the district, and then how we can adjust to make it fit their needs.
What would help me understand moving forward? I understand the pilot is limited, whatnot, but why would we do it in certain grade levels but not all, because to me, the program would seem to build upon itself like any other program from K up.
It was principal discretion this year, but I
I'm
think
saying moving forward. I guess my point is,
we're gonna go,
if
if we're gonna do
the
it,
track
we're gonna do
record
it
says
K-5.
this is doing it, are we putting it in place in everybody and it's a mandate as opposed to a do you want to do it?
Yes, after we move, we have to have that conversation first, and we'll have it in the next month or so to determine what we're gonna do, because we either need to do it everybody or not at all, because of our mobility rate and because of just sheer training people, making sure everybody is on the same page as our kids move around. So if we go, we're either gonna go all in or not at all.
So those that didn't buy into it, is that what the case is? They didn't buy into it and not comfortable with it?
Yes.
Or is that just additional work staff has to do? And
No,
that's why they did
we
it?
wanted to leave it up to the principals this first year to let them have the autonomy and discuss with their teams. And that's why some of the principals, I think, had certain grade levels that did it, because they went back to their campus and talked about it. But I 100% agree with you. We can't do it in K1 and 2, not do it in 3rd, and do it in 4th and 5th, because it builds upon itself.
no
And we
consistency.
will see successes. I've worked with other districts. They have said after 2 or 3 years, because the routines are in place and they do the same routine just with different standards as the kids move up, we'll have to have those routines in place for everybody.
Thanks, Kim.
Any further questions, comments?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kim. This time, Kami Finger, the Assistant Superintendent, School Support and Special Services, will follow her up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Happy Appreciation Month to you. I just want to say thank you for your commitment. You guys don't know, but without you, we're not able to serve and do the work that we're called to. And so I know that sometimes that doesn't get said enough to you all, so we appreciate you very much. We are presenting some of this data. Again, you saw in student engagement, and some of you haven't. It's very similar data that Martha and Brian presented to you last time, except that it is updated as of just last week. And so you have current numbers. You're going to see a lot of comparisons from previous years, from the beginning of the school year up to right now in this moment, so that we have comparable data that's relevant and meaningful. So the first chart that you have is our behavior incidents by week, and so you can see the trend there. Our trend line is turquoise for now, beginning of the year till now, and then the maroon line is last year, and then the green line is the year before. And so it is evident that the number of incidences that are occurring across the district on our campuses is trending down in large part. And so we can make some assumptions that might be a decline in enrollment. We can also make some assumptions that the systems and processes that we're engaging in now are helping with certain behaviors across the district. And I'll talk about principal voice because we heard you last time regarding what are the principals saying and the overall perception and feeling of the campus. This is an organization breakdown, so elementary, high school, and middle. And then the first column that you see is right now, so 11,553 total compared to last year and then the year before. So I'm just showing you the raw numbers. There is, in fact, a decrease in the number of incidences. This is by incident type, so you can see most of the incidences that are reported are discipline related. You see police restraint, bullying, and then restraints in general. This year, we created bullying guidance district-wide. We trained all of our principals and assistant principals in how to look at bullying situations, how to do bullying intakes, and how to take it very seriously. And so for the first time, we now have raw numbers that we're examining in regards to bullying and then our response to any incidences of bullying. Restraint, we report to the state. For our students that are receiving special education services, we're required by law to report that. And so making sure that we report it, that we document it, and that we're notifying our parents is essential. And so our restraint numbers look good. This is disciplinary placement, so all of our removals, our expulsions, our alternative education programs, which is PIA, out-of-school suspension and in-school suspension, and so our data shows from, again, the beginning of the year till now, our numbers in AEP have gone down. Out-of-school suspension remains relatively the same, and in-school suspension has also gone down. Incidents by grade. Our typical pattern is that middle school is higher than the rest. You do see that increase in 9th grade from last year. When we looked at 9th grade from last year to this year, it is higher, but if you remember, our 8th grade population last year had more struggles, and they've moved up to 9th grade. And so we're continuing to look at our transition grades and what we're doing there to help support transitions from elementary to middle, middle to high. This is a lot of data, but what I'm paying attention to on this chart is how we're responding to behavior. And so what are we seeing across the district as far as our use of certain strategies like restorative chats, parent and principal or AP conferences? Are we using those in response? Are the positive things that we would like to see going up or going down? And so that's just something that we will continue to monitor. As of current at our DAEP, so this is your PIA data, you can see current placements and then our returner data. So on our returner data, very important, so you can see 8th grade is highlighted as the grade with the highest number. We pay attention to that because we have so many sections at PIA where we're able to provide adequate support and services. So if our numbers get high in a particular grade level, we begin asking questions. Of our 8th graders, we've had 12 that have come for a second placement. So we would be looking at those 12 students and asking questions about what individual support plans do we have in place to help with them. This is DAEP as far as current offenses go, broken out for you by drug, assaults, threats, mandatory, discretionary, etc. You can see that our total drug offenses currently total for the year is 37%. 21% of our placements at DAP have been for assault, 5% threats, and so on. Mandatory placements well exceed discretionary placements. 76% of our placements are mandatory, meaning they're usually related to drugs or serious terroristic threats or things in that nature. And so we're looking at that. We're also looking at how many of those kids are coming back for those specific offenses and making sure that they're getting exposed to drug intervention, making sure they're getting exposed to aggression replacement training, making sure that we're addressing the behavior that causes them to return to us. And then you see the total numbers at the bottom that are just raw for you to see. So by grade level for each 9-week period, the first row is first 9 weeks. You can see that we've gone down in every grade level except for 10th. And then we have gone down in every grade level except for 6th. And we'll have a conversation in a minute about middle school task force where we drew out some pretty interesting assumptions just yesterday. This is our DAP data broken out by campus. So if you're wanting to see how they compare to others and who is sending certain numbers over others, that's broken down there. You can see the red number that every single campus in Lubbock ISD is trending down as far as their placements thus far. That may change over time depending upon how many are placed between now and the end of the school year. And then our campuses where we know we have high numbers, those are the ones that we're engaging in conversations about systems and processes and ways that we can help support discipline incidences occurring on their campus. This one also is just broken out by grade level. So this gives you perspective, right? As a campus, how many 6th, how many 7th, how many 8th for high school, the same. Because if I click on that number 8 in that grade level and I can look at those kids and I can look at whose classroom they're in, and we can have critical conversations about anything from classroom management to individual supports, we're able to do that with our data. So ISS and OSS at PIA, the last 3 years trending down again. This is really important, especially that out-of-school suspension category. We don't want our students that are placed in a DAP being sent home. That usually reinforces behavior and intensifies activity, even out in the community, and that's something that we need to stop as a whole. So those are trending down. The other thing that we want to note that we did not show you in our last presentation is our campus PBIS handbook. This is an expectation across the district for every campus to have. And so in their campus handbook, they're planning strategically their campus leadership team members, their campus leadership team meetings, their intervention team meetings when those dates are, training for staff, training for students, when training across the campus occurs as it relates to positive interventions and behavior. And so we wanted you to have that. And then they also do grade level team meetings where they talk about specific kids, what's going on, and what can be done to intervene on their behalf. This is just a repeat of our DOI drug intervention program. It is going very well. The curriculum that we're using is research-based, called Know Your Neuro. The instructional frameworks developed by Texas Tech Adolescent Substance Abuse Disorder program. And our kids are really picking it up and applying it. Brian has been overseeing this for us. Tech and Brian have made multiple site visits. The number of our students that are accessing the program now are growing and are remaining steady. If you recall, we had 2 middle school centralized sites since the start of the program just in November. OL Slayton, McKenzie, now Irons are choosing to take it onto their campus and own it and make it their own, which means we have buy-in. We've had parents report that they're seeing application at home and change in our students' thought processes as it relates to using. Our 4 high school sites are up and running. In particular, just want to highlight Coronado and Monterey. They're doing a really fantastic job with implementation. We're monitoring this at a high level. And if we're able to do this with fidelity, implementing it over time and sustaining it, then you can expect that Tech will be writing research around it. Do you have any, oh, did I get into middle school? I don't think it made it. I'm sorry. Yesterday we had a middle school, my slide did not make it, I apologize. A middle school task force that we have begun. And we focused yesterday on insubordination. You guys have seen that insubordination is the top behavior. And so they had conversations about insubordination. They broke out what is insubordination at each middle school campus. It looks differently for some, right? And what behavior specifically are we talking about? They then strategized what tier 2 and tier 3 strategies that they're using on their campus and whether they're working. And what we find is the ones that are not working are usually 5% or less of their population. And so we ask the question, why is it not working? Whatever it may be, social skills instruction, check and check out, CIS, mentoring, all of the things that we throw at a certain kid. And we just did a root cause analysis. And so we called out 5 possible root causes. We've narrowed it down to 2 or 3. We're going to send out feedback to our principals and ask them to vote on what 2 or 3 they really want to work on across the district. Apathy was one that came up, and that's that sense of caring about my education and school and being here and learning. And the other one was parent support, that we're not engaging formalized processes with our parents and supporting the family unit in such a way that apathy could be impacted. So we may break out into 2 task force around that topic. We may continue to do 1. We're letting the principals lead the work. We told them yesterday we don't want to waste time. We asked the question, the numbers that we have that are declining, do you feel that? And the majority of them responded, yeah, we feel that it's more stable. It's not perfect, and there's lots of issues that we still need to work out, but it's 5% of our population on each campus. And so that work will continue to happen. That's all I have.
One question I have, on your returners at PIA, how many of those are discretionary?
Most of them are mandatory.
Most are mandatory.
Yes, sir. Now with the drug intervention program, you're going to see, because they're able to access the drug intervention program, that our mandatory placements will begin to go down. One question is, our discretionary placements, currently our local policy is that campuses can't have more than 5. So as our numbers begin to adjust, we'll be having some conversation around discretionary placements as well. But most of our returners it's big offenses, and they're intensive approaches have to be taken with those students. The other thing that I did not mention in here that helps with these conversations is our alternative learning pathways and thinking differently about how our students engage the traditional campus versus alternative ways to fulfill their educational requirements, and having those conversations with those students too has begun to happen. So the number of students that are accessing Dupree, it's increasing. We have a strategic process for our campuses to look at that as an option too, if it's a good fit and if the student desires and the family desires to take an alternative route. Did I answer that question?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
All right.
You did.
Kami, I mean, I've said this every time. I don't know how you do everything you do. I know you have a great team around you, and
Yes,
kudos to all of them. I mean, what you speak of is really at the center of everything. The teachers having an easier time teaching, the students having an easier time learning, the campus administration having an easier time, managing their campus. And so I appreciate what y'all are doing. I love that we're trying to find ways to bring kids out of recurring issues. I love that Dupree now is being, I guess, pushed, as opposed to it seemed like it was a very walled off program for only a select few. Because I think there's a lot of kids that's a great program for, and traditional classroom setting is not prudent for them.
I think that with Dupree, state accountability can hurt and cause harm to alternative programming, because we end up, you take students who are so far removed from their educational experience because of trauma, etc., that they're not able to pass a state exam. That impacts a program like Dupree. And so they still are held to the same accountability that a traditional campus is, and maybe I'll get fired later for it, or TA will say, you need to go do something different. It's not fair. We should have the leverage and the ability to be innovative in how we provide education to our students who need something different. And so,
Well, I would say the hell with the tests and the standards. If we can help kids find their path, that's the goal of public education. So I can only speak for me, but I would stand up to any official that comes in here and says, we need less kids at Dupree, because if that's where they're needed to get to whatever place they need to be in, well, then the heck with the standards. I mean, I think that's a sword that we should be willing to fall on.
The other great thing about the alternative learning pathway is it's not just contained in Dupree, it's also different ways on the traditional campus to access education too, whether it's through Edgenuity, our CTE courses, our ATC program, whether it's because they need to leave campus a little bit early to go to a job and come back. So I want to be sure this is a student-centered conversation.
Yeah.
We sit down with that student and we make the best plan around their circumstances that we're legally allowed to. And so I want to say that too. All our alternative learning pathways are different, traditional and non-traditional, but we're working on it.
And we've had those conversations with our legislators.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the simple fact that we have our teen mothers that are there, so it is utilized in different aspects for sure, and we need it there for them if they choose to do that, because they can stay at their own school. But a lot of times they're working or the boyfriend's working, and that's just a good fit for them. And I've been there many a times to just help out in any way that I can and volunteer. And I see the great things that are happening. I love Carolyn. I like what she does. Carolyn's just Carolyn, But you know what? That community is so supportive of that school. They take them lunch. They take them stuff all the time. So they don't lack anything over there.
No, that is accurate.
Centralized daycare for sure.
Yep, yes, ma'am.
The only comment I would have, and Kathy, this is more directed to you, I still think the district would benefit from a behavior expectation that's global at every level across every campus. I know we give autonomy to the schools to kind of run the schools in different fashion because the needs of the kids are different, and I appreciate that. But with the mobility and everything else, you talk to, from my perspective, especially with some of the decisions we've had to make the last few months, talking with the principals, you know, especially the change from like elementary to middle school, the expectations are so different amongst different teachers, amongst different schools, amongst different grades, that while I know people would push back, I think it would benefit everybody, especially the teachers and the parents. Because if, you know, and I know we have in a booklet, but I'm talking about on the wall where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you don't do these things, that's, you know, that's the expectation.
Well, that booklet that was on Kami's slide is definitely a move in that direction to have common language around systems and structures. It's hard to take the personality out of the teacher and demand that they have their classroom management style fits what the school expects and not necessarily what them as professionals bring to the table. But I hear what you're saying.
We talked about that too in our task force, replication. So having a standardized behavior response system, depending upon the behaviors and how the students rise to the next level as far as in-class incident to office referral to then, you know, whatever you want to call it. We're going to meet with you one-on-one. We're going to meet with you and your parents, and then we're going to move to the next step.
Yeah.
And so if that's working for a campus and it's a best practice, then replication
Yeah.
is definitely something that we're exploring in the task force also.
And I'm just so everybody's clear, I'm talking about more like on the back of your badge. You have our what is it, safety response protocol.
Standard
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a teacher telling them exactly what they're doing every single minute. I'm just talking about here's the 3 expectations that we have for first graders. I don't care if you're in Miss Smith's class, Miss Johnson's class, whatever. Here's the 3 expectations, and then the teachers could build their own, you know, personalities within that to where, no matter where little Johnny goes, he's walking in the next class. He's like, oh shoot, yeah, that's the same thing that Miss
And
Johnson.
every campus is to have exactly what you're saying, behavioral expectations or guidelines for success, and draw those out district-wide. And then the classroom systems are to also follow those.
Yeah.
Teachers have some flexibility, like with reinforcement systems, and personalities will draw on whether they're, you know, referring more or less, but there's even standard protocol for what makes a good office referral and what should be addressed in the classroom as a teacher. So, and maybe we need to sit down sometime and show you some campus examples and have a deeper conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kami.
Thank you, Kami.
And thank you, Kim, for this presentation. We do have need for an executive closed session again. It is 10:24. We are adjourned to closed session.
Thank you or whoever, thank y'all for.
We got a good deal on like a pallet of it. That's,
It is 10:48. We are reconvened from executive session. Do we have any action items following the executive session?
No, sir.
Seeing none, it is 10:48. We are adjourned.
Back on.
I know it.
No, I.
Yeah, you're
This
right.
is mine, right?
Yes, ma'am. Here.
Yeah.
Do you want another one to take home?
Yeah. I drink lots of water.